fear of the mysterious, Hannah murmured to herself. The phrase was supposed to anchor her, keep her cautious, but as she stared at the glow of her laptop screen, the words looked more like a dare. On the screen, a fetish dating forum, sleek but shadowed, a curated underworld of discreet profiles, anonymous handles, and rules designed to keep outsiders guessing. Her hand hovered over the trackpad, finger trembling. She wasn't supposed to be here, not a woman like her. At least, that's what she'd always told herself. But lately, everything had cracked open. Robert, her fiancé, was working late again, deadlines piled higher than promises. Their once passionate relationship had cooled into a kind of efficient companionship. Polite kisses, measured laughter, and a sex life so starved it felt like a memory. She loved him. But love, she was realizing, wasn't always enough to smother hunger. And tonight, that hunger had led her here. Click. A message slid into her inbox. The username was stark, almost menacing. The operator. Do you want to play? Hannah wasn't reckless by nature. Born in the small, wind-blown town of Hollyville, she had grown up in a house full of whispered arguments and slammed doors. Her mother was devout, her father a quiet shadow with secrets of his own. By 18, she had fled, college in Boston, internships in New York, clawing her way into an advertising career where sleek presentations and sharp heels made her feel invincible. But behind the gloss, there was always that fracture, a deep, gnawing need to be seen, truly seen, without judgment. Robert had seemed like the answer, stable, brilliant in a quiet way, the kind of man her mother would finally approve of. And for a while, he filled the cracks with safety. But safety, Hannah was learning, could become its own kind of prison. The message from the operator replayed in her head long after she shut her laptop. The next evening, she slipped into a crimson dress, low at the back, dangerous in the way it clung. The choice wasn't random. Red had always been her rebellion. Robert barely noticed when she left the apartment. The address was tucked away in a quiet Pathview neighborhood, a townhouse whose windows glowed like molten amber against the night. At the door, a woman in black silk smiled without warmth and ushered Hannah inside. The club was nothing like she'd imagined, not lurid, not seedy, but elegant, dangerous in its restraint. Velvet curtains, candlelight flickering against gilt mirrors, music thrumming low and primal. People moved like shadows, couples, strangers, bodies drawn together in a choreography of desire. Her heart hammered as she scanned the room. And then she saw him, a man in a tailored charcoal suit, jaw sharp, eyes pale and cutting. He didn't smile, didn't need to. He simply watched her, as though she'd been expected all along. The operator. They met in the corner of the lounge, where the shadows curved like secrets. "You're late," he said. Voice deep, clipped. "I wasn't sure I'd come," Hannah replied, fighting to steady her breath. "You came," he said simply, as though that was all that mattered. What followed wasn't small talk, but an interrogation cloaked as seduction. He asked about her desires, her boundaries, her fears. Every question peeled her open. Every answer felt like an admission. At last, he leaned close, so near she caught the faint scent of smoke and cedar. "I don't offer love. I offer truth, the kind that strips you raw. Do you want it?" Something inside her, a part long buried, whispered, "Yes." They sealed it with a pact, 1 month, 1 game. She would obey certain rules. He would show her who she really was. In return, nothing would remain the same. The operator slipped a silver key into her hand. "Your door opens when you're ready," he murmured. By day, Hannah was still the polished fiancé, attending client meetings, smiling beside Robert at dinner with colleagues. But by night, the silver key burned in her pocket like a secret heartbeat. The operator demanded she write confessions, desires she'd never spoken aloud. He left her instructions, small acts of surrender, each one escalating. a dress she must wear, a stranger she must speak to, a photo she must send. Each task ignited her nerves, fear braided with exhilaration. She was terrified Robert would notice, but he seemed increasingly distracted, his own secrets flickering at the edges. Phone calls at odd hours, messages he guarded, a shadow settling into his gaze. For the first time, Hannah wondered if she was the only one hiding. It happened on a Thursday. Hannah returned home late, the silver key still warm against her palm, only to find Robert waiting in the dark. His eyes glinted, not with anger, but with something colder. "Where were you?" His voice was measured, too measured. "Work," she lied. He studied her, gaze sharp enough to cut, and then, smiling faintly, he pulled a phone from his pocket. Not his, hers. The screen glowed with unread messages. From the operator. Hannah's breath caught. The room seemed to tilt. Robert stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "Tell me, Hannah, are you lying to me, or are you finally telling the truth?" The silence between them thickened, electric. Robert leaned down, lips brushing her ear. "Do you know what happens," he whispered, "when two people start playing the same game?" Before she could answer, he dropped her phone onto the table. The screen lit up with a new message. From the operator. "Your time is running out." The words burned across the glass. Hannah felt the room close in, air thinning, the sound of her own pulse louder than the rain hammering outside. For the first time, she realized she wasn't caught between two men. She was caught inside a trap, one where every move could destroy her. Her throat tightened. Robert's gaze never left her face, calm but predatory, as though he'd been waiting for this precise moment. "You think I don't know," he said softly. "But I've always known. About your late nights. The way you look at your reflection before you leave, like you're someone else. The hunger in your eyes." His voice was almost tender, but the words cut like glass. "Robert," Hannah began, but her throat betrayed her, voice cracking. He picked up the phone, reading the message aloud in a slow, deliberate cadence. "Your time is running out." Then, with a faint smile, he whispered, "That's not just for you, Hannah. That's for us." The following days were a blur of unease. Robert grew more attentive, cooking her breakfast, kissing her cheek with practiced ease, yet his eyes remained sharp, watchful. One night, after a late shower, Hannah found her laptop open on the bed. Robert sat nearby, scrolling through the forum she'd thought hidden. His posture was relaxed, but the glow from the screen painted his face with an eerie intensity. "You thought you were being clever," he said, almost amused. "But you don't know how deep this goes." Her pulse hammered. "What are you talking about?" He turned the laptop toward her. On the screen, a message thread, not just from the operator, but from Robert's own hidden account. A second username, one she'd never seen. "Do you understand now?" he asked. "There's no outsider. It's always been me." The room tilted. Hannah staggered back, memories crashing, every task, every instruction, every word the operator had fed her. Robert's handprints were on all of it. "You tricked me," she whispered. "I freed you," he countered, eyes blazing. "You've never been more alive than when you thought you were playing with danger. I gave you that." But Hannah saw it now. It wasn't freedom. It was control. The discovery left Hannah hollow. For weeks she'd danced at the edge of desire and danger, believing she'd been flirting with a stranger who offered escape. But the truth was more suffocating. Robert had orchestrated everything. He had read her confessions, peeled her open piece by piece, made her believe she was stepping outside her cage, when in reality she'd been running laps inside it. And yet, she couldn't entirely hate him. His manipulation had ignited her, awakened parts of her she'd buried. That was the cruelest twist. Still, betrayal festered. One night when Robert left for a supposed late meeting, Hannah followed him. The city swallowed her in neon and shadow until she reached an unfamiliar address. Another townhouse, another secret club. Inside, she saw Robert not as her fiancé, but as someone else, commanding, magnetic, surrounded by others who looked at him as though he owned the room. She realized with sick clarity that the operator wasn't just a mask for her. It was Robert's true self. Hannah confronted him. "You've been living two lives," she accused. Robert didn't deny it. Instead, he stepped close, his breath warm against her ear. "You liked it," he whispered. "You wanted it. Don't lie to yourself, Hannah. You need this as much as I do." She pushed him back, shaking. "Need? Or addiction?" He smiled coldly. "What's the difference?" From that night, their relationship became a dangerous game of one-upmanship. She would lie. He would uncover it. He would manipulate. She would resist. Every dinner, every kiss, every night in bed became a silent duel for control. But beneath the power plays lurked something darker, an escalation neither of them could stop. The messages resumed. This time, they weren't from Robert. A new username appeared on Hannah's phone. Witness. "He's not who you think he is, and if you don't act, you'll lose everything." At first, Hannah thought it was another of Robert's games, but the messages included details Robert couldn't know. Her private emails, photos she'd never uploaded. Someone else was watching. The sense of paranoia grew unbearable. Every passing day felt like borrowed time, the clock ticking louder in her ears. The final message came like a blade. "Meet me at midnight, alone, or I tell him everything." The location was a derelict warehouse by the river, its windows shattered, graffiti glowing in the pale wash of street lamps. Hannah stepped inside, heels crunching glass, heart racing. A figure emerged from the shadows. Not Robert. A woman. Dark hair, sharp eyes, lips curved in something between pity and contempt. "I'm not here to hurt you," the woman said. "But you need to know the truth about Robert." She handed Hannah a folder, thick with photographs and records. Images of Robert at the club, not just playing but orchestrating. Blackmailing, manipulating, controlling more than just Hannah. Other women, other games. A trail of obsession and cruelty. "Why are you showing me this?" Hannah whispered. "Because you're next," the woman said simply. Hannah returned home with the folder hidden under her coat. Robert was waiting, as though he already knew. His eyes flicked to the coat, then to her trembling hands. "What did she tell you?" His voice was low, dangerous. "That you're a monster," Hannah spat. "That this was never about us. It was about control, about power, about destroying people." Robert's face shifted. Grief, rage, something darker. "You think you're innocent," he said. "You think you weren't complicit. You followed every instruction. You loved it. Don't pretend you didn't." The argument spiraled into violence, not physical at first, but psychological. Words sharpened into knives, accusations hurled like grenades. The apartment became a battlefield, every memory twisted into evidence, every kiss into proof of betrayal. And then, silence. Robert stepped closer, hand trembling as though fighting himself. "If I lose you, Hannah, I lose everything." The final confrontation came 2 nights later. The club, the velvet-draped room where it all began. Hannah had returned, not as a participant, but as a challenger. Robert was there, waiting, eyes blazing with fury and desire. "You shouldn't have come," he warned. "I had to," she replied, "because this ends tonight." The crowd seemed to vanish around them, the room narrowing until it was only the two of them, predator and prey, roles shifting with every breath. "You wanted the truth," Robert said. "Here it is. I don't love you. I own you." But Hannah was no longer trembling. She pulled the folder from her bag and let it fall open across the floor. Photos scattered, evidence undeniable. Gasps rippled through the room. "You don't own me," she said, voice steady. "You own nothing." Robert lunged, desperate, but the crowd moved, restraining him, voices rising in chaos. Hannah stepped back, watching as the world closed in on him. For the first time, he looked small. Hannah had grown wild, some guts of her own. She loved him enough to stay with him, but hated more to desire him crumbled. It's a mixed feeling she can't fully explain yet. It's finding expression in her. Weeks later, the city felt quieter. The club had shuttered. Robert was gone, disappeared, whether into exile or something darker, Hannah never discovered. But peace didn't come easily. At night, she still heard the whispers. She still felt the weight of the silver key, though she had thrown it into the river. Most of all, she felt the pull, the dark gravity of desire and danger, the intoxicating thrill of surrender and control. She told herself she was free. But freedom, she realized, was just another kind of game. At the cafe, Hannah sits alone, coffee cooling in her hand. Her phone vibrates. A message. From an untraceable number. "It's never really over." Her breath caught. She looked around, eyes scanning the faces of strangers. Somewhere, someone was watching. The screen faded to black. Tick, tick, tick.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the Crimson Motives channel for more thrilling stories.